Hi, this is Sarah Mikesell with the Pig Site, and today we're here with Dr. Keith Erlandson. He is a senior technical services veterinarian with Zoetis. Thanks for being with us today, Keith.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Very good. And today we're here at Iowa State Swine Day, and you just presented to the group. Can you tell us a few of the key messages from your presentation?
The conference organizers asked me to come and talk about my experience with African swine fever in China. So I presented a case study for the first African swine fever case I was involved with in China and how we managed that, as well as how the management of the virus or the disease in China has changed over the years, and how we've come to understand a little bit better how to do a test and removal so that we don't necessarily have to depopulate the entire herd.
Very good. And I know kind of the name of the presentation was Boots on the Ground, because you were actually there in China, right?
Yeah, I worked with a company in China full-time from 2015 to 2020. So I was there on August 3rd, 2018 when it was announced that African swine fever had been found in China. And I and the veterinarians that I worked with spent the next 2 years dealing with the disease and trying to figure out how to still make pigs even though the country became endemic with African swine fever.
Very good. And I know you said, kind of the starting point was depopulation, but you quickly learned you need to change your strategy.
Yeah, it became obvious very early on that as devastating as the disease was, if we had to depopulate every farm that broke with African swine fever very quickly, there wouldn't be any pigs left. So my team and I developed techniques to be able to go into a farm and detect the virus early and then remove a smaller portion of pigs so that we may lose some production, but we still maintain the farm and didn't have to depopulate the whole farm. We could do it in a very selective manner so that we wound up not having to depopulate everything.
Very good. And you said it really changed how Chinese swine operations really looked at biosecurity. I mean, they made some big advancements there, it sounded like.
Yeah, when I first got to China, biosecurity was mentioned and it was a concern, but once African swine fever broke, everyone from the newest person hired at the farm to the uppermost levels of management were all very concerned about biosecurity and willing to put in the time and the effort and the investment to get biosecurity right.
And we've all kind of lived through COVID, like a lockdown. That's kind of what you guys went through, or these operations started to go through, right? I mean, you heard the news and they locked down the farm.
Yeah, in many cases we shut down the farm as best we could. We tried not to move anything in or out of the farm that wasn't completely essential to the operations of the farm. Just trying to keep the disease out and keep our pigs healthy.
Very good. And as you talk through this case study, the last case study you were talking about, you actually had an African swine fever free farm. You got to that point, right?
Yeah, through finding the virus in an early stage of infection and doing a strategic depopulation around where that animal was found, we were able to remove animals and save the rest of the animals on the farm. And subsequent testing has proved that we got rid of it and that virus is no longer on the farm.
And that idea of catching it quick, catching it early, really containing it is a big key, right?
Absolutely. Everybody has to be vigilant, but especially the people that are taking care of the pigs day to day. They're going to be the first ones that notice something is wrong, and they have to be ready to raise the red flag and let people know that something's wrong so that we can get in there and get the testing done quickly and establish what's going on. They can't be afraid of raising a red flag and calling a false alarm. It's more important that I'd rather go to 10 false alarms than miss the one
right.
real situation.
And you mentioned one thing that was really interesting to me was when you started out, you said you have to have kind of this double mindset with African swine fever virus, right? You have to have two different ways of thinking about it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So what I came to realize was you have to hold two diametrically opposed opinions about the virus in your mind, and you have to hold them both true at the same time. One is that African swine fever is very infectious, moves very rapidly, and is very easy to transmit. And the other is that ASF moves fairly slowly and is pretty difficult to transmit. The first situation, you have to think of it as very infectious and very easy to transmit, and to prevent it from getting into your farm. But once it gets into your farm, if you're going to do a test and removal procedure, you have some time. It's not a very fast-moving virus within the herd, so if you've caught the disease early, you can do a selective depopulation and still save the rest of the farm.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for all the information today, Keith.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
This is Sarah Mikesell with the Pig Site.